We have got a 53-man roster, folks. Tuesday was cut down day around the NFL, and there's a ton to digest about the Colts on today's episode. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Colts fans, thanks so much for tuning in and making us your number one listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Colts is presented by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. I am Jake Arthur, and I'm joined by my dude, Zach Hicks here. You guys know us, of course, from horseshoehuddle.com. On today's show, Tuesday, again, was the deadline for NFL teams to have their players whittled down to 53 players. We'll break down all of the Colts roster moves for you, as well as what the roster looks like now. Before we start, though, huge thank you to you guys for finally getting us over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It happened. We got it under the deadline before August ended. It seems like we did it in no time, considering we started almost like mid-July on our YouTube channel, and it's all thanks to you guys.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I put it on Twitter saying we were only 25 away, and then I looked at it like a minute later, and I was like, oh, we're 5 away. And then I was like, oh, we're like 40 over now. Like, you guys were just killing it. I guess that just shows my clout on Twitter or something like that. But I will post a fun little video probably sometime tomorrow in the afternoon or something like that. It'll probably be like a 2 or 3 minute video of just me changing the header to the new header and stuff like that. We'll make that like a quick little video here for the channel. So all of you guys who follow us here on YouTube can enjoy that. But no, you guys killed it. We really appreciate it. And it's a cool goal, man, to hit 1,000 in, less than 2 months. Like that. You guys are awesome.
For sure. Yep. So Zach's going to live up to his end of the bargain with you guys. He'll change his Twitter header. Shifting focus to the Colts today, because it was a jam-packed day. Zach, you called it on yesterday's show. Chris Ballard struck again with another one of those late round trades on cut down day.
Wait. So I don't know which one of us called it. I got to rewatch the video, because I know in some of the comments they were saying, oh, Jake, great call. And then I had other people messaging me being like, Zach, great call. And I'm like,
it was you.
It was me? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I
commented on it, but
yeah, I'll take credit for it. But I don't know which one of us said it, but I do know Chris Ballard loves to make those trades, and he made one today.
Yeah, they picked up from the Buccaneers linebacker Grant Stewart and a 2023 7th round pick in exchange for a 2023 6th round pick. Zach and I were discussing off air just now. This is pretty much just getting Jordan Glasgow back.
Right.
What do you think, kind of reading between the lines, that move means, though? Because I mean, you don't make a move like that for nothing.
Yeah, it's purely special teams. I mean, Grant Stewart was a guy who is only a special teams player. We actually had a joke. The guys that I did the Indy draft guide with, they do the Kansas City draft guide. And I remember last year during the draft cycle, the guy who was grading linebackers had Grant Stewart as his all-time lowest graded player. Like the all-time lowest graded player.
Good.
But that doesn't always translate, because obviously he's grading him as a linebacker. He's not grading him as a special teamer, So right. Grant Stewart, surprisingly, Mr. Irrelevant last year, comes into the Bucs, and he's a really solid special teams player. Is he anything more than that? No, he's not. Like, he is purely Jordan Glasgow. He will not touch the defensive side of the field. But this is kind of them saying, we brought in Brandon King to be this role this offseason, and he just didn't do it for us. So now we're getting another player to fill that role. And unfortunately, it led to a surprise cut at linebacker, which we did not see coming. But special teams kill. I mean, if Bubba Ventrone says he needs certain guys for special teams, those guys are going to take priority, and they're going to make the team. So that's why we saw a couple surprise guys make the roster. And then we saw this kind of surprise trade for a linebacker who, again, will not play any defensive snaps.
Yeah, and this roster was so fluid behind the solid starters. I can't say there was anything shocking But there were definitely some cuts that they made that, like you said, we didn't see coming. These were guys we had penciled into the roster. A lot of these guys made our final predictions. Starting with the first one we heard of on Tuesday was Philip Lindsay, running back.
Yeah.
Now, we understand why. It's because of special teams. Deion
Right.
Jackson wins it because of special teams. But Lindsay was the best runner behind Taylor and Hines during camp. And so you thought maybe just even in the Marlon Mack role where he is maybe inactive a lot of game days that he would make it. But, man, they kind of – I felt like they let us on a little bit with the Deion – I don't want to say Deion Jackson hate because they fed him a lot in the final game, but it felt like he was in the doghouse most of the summer.
And rightfully so. From a lot of what you're reporting was a lot of fumbles in camp. There were a lot of inconsistencies. So it kind of made sense that he wasn't getting those top snaps. But of all the depth guys that were competing in that running back group, Deion Jackson always had the upper hand when it came to special teams. Not as like a returner, but just being a core 4 guy, kind of like what Jordan Wilkins brought to the team a couple years ago. And that's ultimately why he is RB3 on this team. Now, I do think there is still some room for the Colts to go out and get maybe another running back, another guy who they could have as a healthy scratch for a lot of the year, or maybe just a better running back than Deion Jackson that can also play special teams. So I do think that could be a fluid position right there. But I mean, at the end of the day, the guys who are going to get almost every single snap are Hines and Taylor. And so the Lindsay cut, I saw some people getting really upset about it. This is a guy who was going to be a healthy scratch for 12, 13, 14 games. Like it's a role that hopefully never had to be used. And the Colts are pretty much going like, yeah, we don't expect it to be used. Now, knock on wood, obviously. But they decided to keep Deion Jackson for the special teams.
It's funny because my first roster prediction after camp started, I had it being Taylor, Hines, and Jackson as the 3 running backs. And then the next time I did it, I was like, okay, I'm definitely changing this because this seems very unlikely. And then sure enough, that's how it winds up being. Dennis Kelly was the next one. And this obviously is because he's been out since like the first or second day, pretty much. He has been out all of camp. It's really a bummer because that would have been a great free agent signing for them if it would have worked out and he would have been able to stay even remotely healthy. But I mean, they apparently just had to move on and have to try and find another replacement for their swing tackle or someone who can bring them depth at guard and tackle.
Yeah, that one's a tough one because we were kind of penciling him as a lock all season just because his pedigree. He's a veteran guy who has played a lot of games in the NFL. And he's a good player. But now with him being released, the Colts have 2 valuable swing, backup guys in Will Fries and Bernard Ryman. But besides that, it's not great. So they probably will need to grab another offensive lineman, preferably some guy with offensive tackle experience too. But that was kind of shocking to me because I thought they would wait that out. But I guess they just wanted to get more of an immediate, producer there.
Yeah, it seems weird that they signed Philip Lindsay and Tyson Williams and Dennis Kelly and Jason Spriggs, and not one of the 4 is on their roster anymore.
Right.
Moving along to the defensive side of the ball. I'm surprised we're not wearing black because it's a funeral today, brother.
I know.
Curtis Brooks, as we projected on the last episode, did not make it. Just not quite enough growth quite yet, but seems like a prime practice squad guy.
Yeah, he just wasn't ready yet. He's going to get, a lot of the money that he was guaranteed in the draft slot on the practice squad with the Colts. So I'm not fretting it too much. I think he's going to stick with the Colts for most of the year, maybe get a call up late in the season. But he just wasn't ready. And that was evident. And with the Colts depth at 3 tech, they didn't really need to force the issue there.
And a small footnote on one, I had Anthony Chesley at back as well, but I don't think that's really surprising. I just thought he did enough to maybe make the roster. But the last guy I'll mention here, rookie linebacker Sterling Weatherford. JoJo Doman made it. I think by the last week or so, we thought Sterling Weatherford wasn't a lock, but was a pretty good possibility to make it. But again, he probably a numbers game if I had to guess.
Right. That's what it came. When they made the trade for Grant Stewart, it was kind of set in stone that they were going to keep more of a special teamer with that last linebacker role. But Sterling Weatherford's a guy they're really high on. They want him back for the practice squad. And from what I was kind of being told, depending on on Shaquille Leonard's availability for week 1, Weatherford could be a player that's elevated next week back to the roster from the practice squad if he makes it to the practice squad, or even just signed back to the roster in general after they make some other moves. So I don't think this is the last we've seen of Sterling Weatherford. I think he's going to be around in Indy for a bit. It just is very unfortunate that when the numbers game came down to it, he ended up missing.
Yeah, I think this will be one of those ones where their sole focus is getting him onto the practice squad, and they'll be probably pretty upset if another team swoops in. One of those moves happens every year, but could happen to the Colts this time. But
yeah,
I think that's about it for any surprises. I don't know if you have any more.
No. I mean, it's just a tough time of year. A lot of players losing their jobs, and honestly, it's kind of the thing around the country and around the world right now. A lot of people losing their jobs. Yeah. That's why we have LinkedIn to help you guys out as you gear up for fall. Oh yeah, I'm learning from you, Jake. I'm learning from you. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people that you want to talk to faster and for free. I don't know if you've ever had to do it, but searching for candidates to fill job positions can be one of life's great pains. Sometimes you just don't get enough suitable candidates, and sometimes they're just hard to find. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. It's never too early to start looking at some picks. You can make some extra money as the NFL season nears. Right now, I've got my eyes on Matt Ryan's Week 1 matchup with the Texans, as Prize Picks has set his more or less at 230.5 passing yards. It's super easy to do this on Prize Picks. Just hop onto prizepicks.com, choose whatever sport you're looking to make picks for, and go to town, making your more than, less than selections. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they will go score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the available projections. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch, from the NFL to MLB, even golf, women's college basketball, even stuff like esports, disc golf, and cricket. Your entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. You can make safe and fast withdrawals, and Prize Picks is currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON. Nat sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. I bungled at the bottom. A little typo at the end, but you guys get the gist. Prize Picks. But getting into our next segment here, guys, we're going to talk about this actual roster. And Jake has the whole roster here. So, Jake, let's run through the offense real quick. Guys who made the roster and guys who are currently on the we have to kind of say initial 53-man roster. We can't say guys who made the team, because as we'll see, even by the time this podcast goes up tomorrow, we might already have changes to this roster.
Yeah, waiver wire pickups, free agent signing stuff. I mean, some of these lower level guys are only safe for about 24 hours. But at quarterback and running back, it's each 3 players. Quarterbacks Matt Ryan, Nick Foles, and Sam Ehlinger. That's kind of what we thought going into it. Running back Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and Deion Jackson. Down to receiver, they did keep 6 like we thought they would. Michael Pittman Jr., Paris Campbell, Alec Pierce, Ashton Doolin, Desmond Patman, and Mike Strawn. We'll see what happens with Patman and Strawn, what kind of role those guys can carve out. 3 tight ends, again, with Drew Ogletree going down to IR. It's Mo Alley-Cox, Kylan Granson, and Jelani Woods. You've got the offensive line depth is a little scary behind the starters.
Right.
But, of course, you got Matt Pryor, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Danny Pinter, and Braden Smith. Just 3 guys backing them up: Bernard Ryman, Will Fries, Wesley French. Will Fries is the only one of those guys with NFL experience, so moves are going to be made to this offense.
Barely NFL experience. We're talking 22 snaps of NFL experience, so not much.
Yeah. Moves will be made on the offensive line in the coming days.
Right.
So that's it for the offense.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything too shocking there. Wide receiver went the way we expected. O-line outside of Dennis Kelly went kind of expected. Tight end went expected. Running back, they went with a special teamer. And then Sam Ehlinger. I mean, again, he did everything he could to make the roster, and he came out and did the dang thing. So, I mean, hats off to him, man. Hats off to him for earning the spot. And I think our good friend of the pod here, Derek Schultz, said it best on Twitter the other day. When you draft Sam Ehlinger, you see him have 2 off seasons where he's gotten better every single game, gotten better from offseason to offseason. He's doing the best possible thing you could expect when you draft him. So it's hard to cut him then after that, because then why did you draft him? So I think that was a great point by Derek. And I just wanted to echo that on here, that it made total sense to keep him, even if it meant going a little lighter at some other spots.
Yeah, he's been everything they've wanted him to be. I mean, sure, they signed Nick Foles this offseason, which demoted Ehlinger, but that didn't stop Ehlinger from progressing and getting even better. Like, if you drafted him to be a nice backup down the line, we don't know what this quarterback room looks like even a year from now.
Right.
Matt Ryan may still be here, but Nick Foles might not be. So shoot. Yeah. I mean, no big surprises. I mean, if you listen to yesterday's show, a lot of this is similar. I mean, I think offensive line was a little, again, surprising Dennis Kelly, but that's all I got for offense.
Yeah. What do we got on defense there? Do you have the defensive guys in front of you too?
Yeah, I got the defense if you want me to read them off.
All right, let's go through defense now, Jake. Let's do it.
All right, so they did keep 6 ends like we thought. Kwity Paye and Yannick Ngakoue, Tyquan Lewis as the 3, Dio Dangbo, Ben Banogu, and Ifeadi Odenigbo. So they did do Banogu and Odenigbo. So we'll see.
You guys saw me. I had a sources tweet today. I had a per sources tweet today. Ben Banogu was safe, and which got a lot of people diving into my comments being like, why is he safe? But no, he had a good offseason. And, he might be one of those players where he's safe for now, maybe not safe 24 hours from now. But I do think he played himself into a role this offseason. I think he had a really strong offseason.
For sure. I mean, again, he's not quite like Sam Ehlinger progression, but again, these last 2 summers, you got to see what the guy has on the football field. Like, it can't just be a summer thing. The interior, Buckner, Stewart, of course. This is not exactly the combo of tackles I saw happening, though. Eric Johnson II, which I did think, but Byron Cowart outlasting Chris Williams, Curtis Brooks, and RJ McIntosh.
Yeah, I will say he's the best run defender of the group. So I guess worst comes to worst, you have him, but I do think this is another spot where they're probably going to add another defensive tackle to that group.
Yeah, that's definitely going to happen as well. Looking at linebacker, they got 5 right now. You got Shaquille Leonard, Bobby Okereke, and Zaire Franklin as your top 3, with JoJo Doman and EJ Speed backing it up.
One more. And we're missing one. Grant Stewart too.
Grant Stewart. I haven't added him to my thing yet. You guys
Grant Stewart as well. So that's 6.
Are getting me here.
6 at linebacker.
That is 6. Okay, you're right. And Shaquille Leonard was activated from PUP, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that yet, but he was activated, so he doesn't have to be out a huge chunk of time to start the year. Defensive backs at cornerback, you got Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Faison, Kenny Moore, Isaiah Rodgers, Dallas Flowers, and Tony Brown. We thought Flowers was a dark horse, but over Chesley and Tell and stuff, that's interesting. Looking at safety, Julian Blackman, Nick Cross, Rodney Thomas, Rodney McLeod, and the guy Zach's been pounding the table for, Trevor Denbo.
Yes.
He made it.
Yes. You guys know that the last couple of weeks on this podcast, we've always ended it with me being like, look, Trevor Denbo is impressing me. And I don't want to get too excited, because I do think guys like Trevor Denbo, Ben Banogu, Dallas Flowers, Wesley French, they could very much be this year's Andre Sacheri, where we get all excited. They're on the team for one day and then they're waived the next day for the waiver wire pickups. But I do think those guys all definitely earn this moment. They can at least celebrate tonight because they all have good enough off seasons where they deserve to make this team. So especially for guys like Flowers and Denbo, who had tough battles and kind of uphill battles, for both of them to make the initial roster as undrafted free agents, just hats off to those guys.
2 of 4 undrafted rookies to make this year's squad. Zach wrote about that at horseshoehuddle.com today. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, no shockers on special teams. Hot Rod, Matt Hawk, Luke Rhodes. They did finally put Rigo on IR. Yep. We thought it was going to be super weird if they waited, and they didn't. So Rigo and Armani Watts went on IR today as well.
Yep. That's all we got.
Yeah, that is about it. I mean, nothing earth-shattering there. So, shoot. Level with me, guys. We've all been in a situation at some point in our lives when we were a little tight on cash. Let's see. Dave, there we go. Level with me. We've all been in a situation at some point in our lives when we were a little tight on cash. Maybe you could only afford to put a few gallons of gas in your tank, or you got another save the day and you're wondering how you're going to afford a gift. That's where Dave can help. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, catch up on bills, get a bunch of Chipotle, have to pay for guac because it's an astronomical price, whatever. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out without any hangups. There's no interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief that they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and you need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Future you will thank you. I'm gonna start suffering on my spit here. those commercials really get my mouth dry. I'm not gonna lie to you. Whew. All right. So
all right, let's kick off this last segment here, Jake. And this last segment, guys, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk some waiver wire additions. Some guys who we think the Colts could take a shot on. And who knows? Last year, if we did this at this time, there's no way we would have said a guy like Bo P. Keys would have been. So who knows if we'll actually get any of these right. But Jake, I know we have our list of guys, and it's mostly offensive tackle and defensive tackles, I think, is what we mostly have. Maybe some corners and stuff in there as well. So let's kind of start on offensive line. Let's start on O-line here. Who are some offensive linemen that you want to see the Colts either claim or sign, because they could be vested vets who are cut today?
I actually didn't have any offensive linemen that I couldn't live without. I think offensive linemen are going to be your forte on
Okay.
this. I had a receiver and a few tight ends on offense. I didn't have many offensive guys that I couldn't live without.
Okay. Let me jump in here then. I got from the Bills. They cut Greg Mance, a guy who's versatile, who could play some tackle, center, and guard. I think he played with the Jets in the past. So Greg Mance was kind of a key cog there, and just kind of got lost in the numbers game. One of my favorite draft prospects from this past class is Kellen Diesch, super athletic offensive tackle, just super short arms, kind of killed him and kind of lost out in that battle with the Miami Dolphins. Some other offensive linemen I have Netani Muti, a guy who the Colts were very high on a couple years ago, the guard out of Fresno State. He got cut from the Denver Broncos.
Okay, I know who that is now.
Yeah, he was an explosive, powerful guy, just couldn't catch on with the Broncos. And
is he the guy that – he was the bench press guy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yep, he got up there around Braden Smith and Quentin Nelson numbers. So he had a really good offseason a year ago. This year it just lost out in the numbers game. And then a couple other quick ones here. Rashad Hill, offensive tackle, got cut by Washington. Not the greatest pedigree, but experience at offensive tackle, has played in a lot of games. Played a lot with the Vikings a couple years ago. Former third-round pick Wyatt Davis was just cut from Minnesota. So he's a guy who, if you want to take a shot on a high upside former third-round pick out of Ohio State, that could be one. And then another one that I threw this one on here because I keep seeing 49ers fans really upset about it. So I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know too much about him. But Jason Poe, offensive tackle / guard from the 49ers. I know Trent Williams the other day was praising him in the media. Really surprising cut for them. And if he happens to fall to the 16th waiver spot, I mean, that could be a veteran ad, or not veteran ad, like a young ad for the Colts. But there are some talented offensive linemen, I think, hit this that could fill that 8th or 9th role for the Colts.
They definitely need it. The offensive line, I think, is priority number one for depth. Because, I mean, you also have 2 new starters, so it's not like you've got 5-6-year vets out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
My guys, again, primarily, I had them as pass catchers. I'm not in love with any of these, but they're interesting names to look at. Preston Williams from the Dolphins. He's been hurt a lot, I feel.
I don't know if he was going to make it to 16. He's in the same with me with Tyler Johnson. I don't know if either of those guys make it to the 16th waiver spot, but if they do, all in.
Right.
Give me them.
And I feel like the Colts liked him coming out of the draft, if I remember correctly.
He had some off-field stuff.
Yeah, he definitely did. He was going to be like a undrafted late round flyer for them, if that.
Yeah.
So this is a big name. I like him for the blocking mostly. OJ Howard. I'm not someone who gets caught up in him every year for fantasy purposes or anything. I'm very cautious with him. But yeah, OJ Howard is interesting, especially for the blocking, because you have Mo as a blocker Mo as a blocker.
That's it.
You know, so you need someone else to do that, because you can't just have Kylan Granson being the only tight end out there running routes. Miller Forrestall and Devin Asiasi were guys I was absolutely in love with in their draft classes. And, you know, maybe on these second teams, that's what they need. Change of scenery. I'm not sure. But the Colts could use a little more tight end depth, I think. These guys are quasi-veterans, you could say, I guess. That's all I got for the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, on offense, I think the only other guys I put on here were Raheem Blackshear, was cut from the Bills, the running back out of Virginia Tech, the guy who made Brandon King look terrible on a couple snaps in the Colts' first preseason game. That running back, he had a great game against the Colts. It's just an outstanding game. It looked really explosive. And, you know, if the Colts wanted to have a young third back that they could do the healthy scraps thing with, I think Blackshear is an interesting guy. I did have a tight end as well, Trayvon Wesco from the Jets. If you want a blocking tight end, I mean, Wesco is 280 pounds, like a monster player, and he's more of like a fullback tight end hybrid who can be that blocking role. And then I had one more weird one, and so this is a wide receiver who's a vested vet, so we won't go through waivers. Laquan Treadwell from the Jaguars.
That is an interesting one. I thought about putting him on there. I mean, I'm surprised Jacksonville let him go.
So the only reason I put him on here is I was looking at guys who I would say add something different than Des Patman or Mike Strawn. And I don't think athletically you're going to get anything different than those two because they're both so athletic. But Laquan Treadwell is probably up there with Zach Pascal as one of the best blocking wide receivers in the league. He's got good hands. So, I mean, if they wanted to have another Pascal type guy at wide receiver 5 or 6, I think Laquan Treadwell makes sense. Not saying I would do it, but but you know, I think that makes sense. But switching over to defense, one guy that we both are going to pound the table for that the Colts need to bring in, and actually it's a guy they need to bring back. Taylor Stallworth was cut from Kansas City. This one, I think everyone in Colts Nation is saying
they have to
happen. Please.
They wanted him back, and they just couldn't figure on a number, whatever it was. They wanted him back. He's been cut. Like, just please do it. Like, if his camp is cool with it, they need him back. They literally need someone for his old role.
Right.
Like,
they need
just
him.
do it.
Please do it. Please do it. Did you have any other defenders on your list there?
Yeah. So these are mostly guys I remember seeing play positively before. I'm not super familiar with how they looked last year. Eli Anku from the Bills, defensive tackle, and also Christian Covington from the Chargers, formerly the Texans, I believe. So we used to see plenty of him. They need defensive tackle depth. If they think those guys are any good, they are guys I know I've been intrigued with at least at some point. So if you're going to kick the tires on some guys, you know, they'll do their due diligence more than I know to do right now.
Hey, Eli Anku was with the Colts. He was the Colts waiver claim 2 years ago after cutdowns.
Okay, that's where I know him, Dan.
Yep.
That's where.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
And then a couple other defensive tackles I got before we close this thing out. I have Tanzel Smart from the Jets. Had a really strong offseason for them. The numbers game kind of hurt them. Tyler Shelvin from the Bengals, big LSU guy, like 340 pounds. If you want a one tech, I mean, that's your guy right there.
That's a big guy, I remember.
And another one, Ty McGill, was cut from the Vikings. Now, he was placed on IR. I believe it's going to be with an injury settlement. And they said he should be back within 1 or 2 weeks. I think he had like 3 sacks in the preseason finale. So
he's a really good player. I remember his time here. I hated that he was ever let go. And I don't know why he hasn't really caught on somewhere. He's a role player. He's not going to be your starting guy necessarily, but as a third, fourth defensive tackle, he gives you a lot of juice. I'd be really down with them bringing him back.
Yep. So if you guys take anything from this segment, defensive tackle, offensive line, and please Taylor Stallworth, please come back.
Yes.
We are begging you to come back, Taylor Stallworth, please.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's it for us today, guys. We'll be back with you tomorrow as we continue breaking down these Colts moves. Again, as we predict, there's probably going to be some more moves to discuss, and maybe a special guest for the occasion.
Ooh, okay. Nice little tease there, Jake. I like it. I like it. Make sure you guys are following us on social media at Jake Arthur NFL on Twitter, at Zach Hicks 2 on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You guys are doing awesome with that. I think we're on our way to 1,100 now. You guys are just flying up there. So you guys just keep it up there. And then wherever you listen to the podcast, rate, review, subscribe, leave a comment. We do like to read all the comments, even if we're not always responding. And we like to take a lot of your suggestions to heart. So we appreciate the love so far, guys, and just keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen every day. But make sure you're also checking out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview starting next week, August 31st. Nope, that's tomorrow, actually. That's today, the day you're listening to this. I don't know what day it is anymore. August 31st is when you're going to start listening to it, though. It's an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts at the Locked On Podcast Network and Odyssey NFL Insiders all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Zach and I lend our expertise on this as well, so you'll want to stay tuned to the AFC South one. Again, starting August 31st, search for the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys tomorrow.